Welcome back to another episode of the Cyber Queens. Happy Friday. We are, of course, your hosts, Meryl, Erica, and Amber. I am Meryl, Cybersecurity Woman of the Year, Hacker of the Year 2023, and I am the resident ethical hacking and offensive expert, and I'm also joined by Amber.
Amber DeVelvis. I am an account director and the founder of Teach Kids Tech.
Welcome back from your sales things, and Erica.
Erica Eakins, CRO of Teach Kids Tech.
Woohoo! And I'm also the COO of Teach Kids Tech.
Yes, I know you need to always say that.
I know. Someone give me evil eyes when I don't do that. Anyway, welcome back to another episode of Cyber Queens. Today we've got a pretty hot topic, and we've been meaning to do this one actually for a while, but I love that we're doing it now that a line in the sand has been drawn and so many organizations have picked their side. So today we are discussing the great work from home versus return to office debate, the great tech debate of, I won't even say our decade, but of at least this month, I feel like. So, obviously, historically, every company was mostly in person. Didn't matter if you had a tech job or not. Even as a hacker, I would have to show up to my job, say, hi, good to see you guys. This is me checking in. And then I have to be I have to leave and go to Starbucks so I can test from an external perspective and get off the network. But it was silly. I had to go in and report to the office. So, and then obviously during the pandemic, most people went remote because it was shut down business completely or find a way to make remote culture work, which most organizations did. But now some organizations are fed up with it, and there are people who will never return to work who think this remote model's great for them. There are orgs who say, get your butt back in the office or you will not be promoted. You will be let go in some cases. And then there are people in the middle who are offering hybrid options. So ladies, what's your opinion? Which one do you prefer?
Boy.
Oh boy.
What do I prefer? Okay, so I could see merit for both sides. My personal merits for myself is I prefer working from home, mostly because I don't love traffic. Nobody does. But I also have a tendency, working from home allows me to be an A student. I show up to meetings early versus on time, which is technically late with the Starbucks that made me late, right? So I feel like working from home has its merits. It's also easier to just get things done throughout the day. If my boss is listening, I mean that in the sweetest and most sincerest of ways. I can do a load of laundry while I'm sending out emails, right? And especially when you're a mom, right? That's the biggest thing for me was when I worked in an office, the last time I did that, I had pick up and drop off every day, right? So I'd have to move my actual in-office work schedule around that. And it was so tough. So tough.
Yeah. And then if you have to pick them up in the middle of the day, something comes up, then you look like the bad child who has to leave all the time. And it's wow, your family is really interfering with your work. And
right.
It's well,
yeah,
sorry. We're expected to raise kids like we have no job and work like we have no family. So
yeah. So I can see what you're talking about, right? Because I didn't even remember the whole, well, if you're not in the office, you're not going to get promoted thing. And I do still think that that's very much so a thing. Because they want people that are leaders and show up for the team, because some people do want to be in office. So as long as you're the person holding down the fort, that's great. So I get it. I do.
What about you?
Yeah.
What about you, Erica?
I see both sides of it, right? But the same people that are telling you, hold on, my Siri is freaking out here. Sorry about that. Siri was having a playtime on my computer. Anyways, I see both sides of it, but the same people that are saying return to work are the same, or return to office are the same people that are not in the office all the time. You have your execs, which I understand should not be in the office 8 hours a day, but for the most part, they golf, they go do their thing, they do whatever they got to do, and they don't have to be in the office because they're executives. So it's in my mind, it's the do as I say, not as I do. But I do see the side that, certain groups and departments need to collaborate together. But my preference is that I work from home. I've worked from home since 2011 before it was cool. So at this point, it would be horrible to bring me back in an office, especially in a sales role and being an extrovert. I don't excel in an office environment because I talk too much. I literally never get anything done. I don't sit at my desk, and people come by your cubicle, or they're stopping by your office, hey, what up? It makes me always think of the movie, The Office, or Office Space.
And,
so I'm going to need you to come in on Saturday.
Yeah.
But I do see sometimes where some positions are required to be in an office setting, if you're working in a SOC, I mean, the argument could be made that you should be there, but it also could be made that you shouldn't be there because you could, dial in remote or whatever, or remote access in. But this whole thing of like, everybody has to return to work in the office. No, it's crap. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Putting the gauntlet down.
Yeah, SOC is one of those positions where like my first org I ever worked at, like every department went remote except for like the IT operations / SOC function. And that was the same department because it was a very small org. So, they preferred to be there monitoring kind of the command center in person, and they had people on shift, multiple shifts of the day and stuff. But I know companies who run completely remote SOCs very successfully. Yep. So I think it just depends, what you're...
I want to hear more about that because I feel like there's so many compliance regulations around that where you can't just like remote in. Like there's so many things, right? Because you could screen record from, your home office. Like, hey, I've got this video camera that's set up on my, to point at my desktop the whole time. Yeah. So I'm actually stealing this feed. I'm just shocked because as a SOC manager, I would never expect that people can do this remotely, depending on what it is you're actually monitoring, I guess.
I guess it's more of those like those multiple aggregator, like orchestrator, like single pane dashboard companies. So right. Like, Rapid7 obviously has an on-site SOC, but like we could very easily enable and empower SOC analysts and threat hunters from a remote perspective using a tool like MDR, something like that. So, I think it kind of depends. Like there's obviously a good sliding scale between the two and do what works for you. But I too hate wasting time in traffic, and I live in the mountains of the Sierra Nevada mountains. So honestly, one time when I worked for Caesars, I lived in Reno and I had to commute to South Tahoe every day, which took me literally almost 2 hours each way. So I was dropping my kids at 5 right when daycare opened and picking them up barely by 6 right when it closed. It was like a full 14-hour day just to work my shift and get my kids.
I lived right outside of Chicago up until 2019 when I moved to Colorado. That 10-mile hike that I had to make, let's just say if it's 10 miles, 2 hours.
Yeah. City miles, right?
Yeah. Well, Denver too. Anywhere in Colorado, it's one highway to get like from Pueblo where I live to Denver. And it's 2 hours without traffic.
Yeah. But I just think that just because, like, kind of like what Amber said, just because you have people in the office doesn't mean they're being productive. Like they're going and getting coffee together. They are wasting time. They're not necessarily showing up to meetings on time because they got caught up in a conversation for someone who like won't let them go. You're like, I really got to run down the hall to a meeting. They're like, yeah, just one more thing. And you're like, but when you're on a Zoom meeting, you can very easily slack someone right up until the meeting starts, kind of thing. So for me, I definitely got more productive when we went remote because I'm a little social butterfly. I don't know if you've ever met me in person. And
never.
Meryl, we're gonna get tea. Want some? Sure. Like I think I actually made like a little video once back when Vines were a thing. And it was like getting to work. Oh, ready to do some work. Want to get coffee? Sure. Sit down with coffee. Hey, want to huddle? Sure. You sit down. Hey, we're going to go get lunch. Want to come? Yeah. And it's like by the end of the day, like no work has gotten done.
Yeah. Whatever happened to Vines? Not to digress.
TikTok ate them.
Figured.
Yeah. But there's pros and cons to each. So let's get into the pros and cons in each. Let's get into the pros and cons. So the pros for work from home. There's the obvious ones. What do you guys think are the pros and cons for the working from home argument? Include the cons because there are some downsides.
Flexibility.
Big one.
For the pro, that's the main one. I feel like.
The cons. So I do believe that there's an argument for there's no collaboration. It is very hard to collaborate with teams. Remote, as a remote person for, over 10, 12 years, whatever, I never collaborate with my teams, but I'm also emailing and slacking and, making it so that I collaborate with my other departments because I know how to use my phone. So the people that don't know how to do that, that's on them. But one of the biggest pros is single moms, single parents. I won't just say single moms, single parents. We have the ability to take our kids to school, pick them up, maybe go to a play in the middle of the day and take like our hour lunch to do that and not have to pay babysitters and before and after school care when your kids are young.
Yeah, my parents who had to be at the office, but my mom had a job that totally could have been done remotely back in the day, like missed every single, Good Citizen Assembly little award that I won, like was never there. And like the people who had parents who could be there, I was like really sad and really jealous. So that's definitely a big thing, being there for our kids. I think it's personally a big cost savings to the company is a big one. Renting and managing and furnishing big corporate buildings is a major overhead expense, right? And true, when you go remote, you need collaboration tools like Mural for like drawings and diagrams and stuff. And you have things like Slack, and you have like, there are various like collaborative tools you can use, and those cost money, but significantly less money than commercial rent, I would think.
But the argument to the rental properties, though, is these companies have 5 to 10 year leases a lot of the times, so that's why they're not letting it go, because they
but that's when you leverage the unprecedented circumstances. So many people got out of their leases because like unprecedented pandemic circumstance. What do we do?
Some of them own their buildings, like the Googles and the Amazons of the world, and Microsoft probably too. These larger corporations, they own their buildings. They ain't giving them up.
Well. Where before you build.
Like, to go back to Erica's point. Okay. So one thing I've noticed, right? So being on the sales engineering side, my favorite part, I actually hated being remote when I first started, because I didn't have, like, nobody could help me. I couldn't ask for help. I had to like figure out who was who over Slack on my first day. I knew like one person, and they're like, oh yeah, ask this person. I'm like, this feels so transactional, right? I'm not building any relationships. And as a person who like thrives off of personal relationships, I do miss that. And the one thing that I like look forward to now in my sales job and really being on this side of things is like QBRs. I love getting together with the team. I feel like we don't do that enough. Like, seeing you guys at Black Hack was awesome. We need to do more of that. Like, this is fine. This is great. Like, I'll take it for what it is. But I'm saying,
you're fine too. You're great. No,
well, if we did this podcast in person, like, I'm just gonna fly out for the next one, and we're just gonna do this in person, Meryl. Damn it!
I'll be like, Amber's not here. Just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. I do miss.
And you know what's crazy is we only got like 4 hours together, realistically too, if you think about it. But it was so like re-energizing. We were all so excited about it.
Yes.
That was cool.
I know.
I agree.
I feel like culture is like for me, and maybe there's viewers out there that are watching this, they're like, she's so stupid. For me, culture is king. Like, I will stay at a company for way too long and deal with way too much shit if I love the people I work with, right? And it's hard to love the people you work with when you don't have time to bond with them, when you don't get to see them every day. So
like when I got my first risk job and then got my first pen testing job, that was the same org. And I had that job when we all went remote overnight one night, right? But I got to know all my coworkers in person. And like, I didn't just know the cyber people. Like, I knew the finance people, the marketing people, the admin assistants, like the front desk lady. So like when we all went remote and started using Teams very heavily, that wasn't a weird transition, because like we all had that rapport already. We would all do like ladies who lunch from all the different departments, not just different verticals and tech and stuff. Right. But when I got to Zoom, you know, which had been a remote company for a minute and obviously really thrived and boomed in the pandemic setting. I did what you were just saying, Amber. Like, I also wanted that human connection. Like, I don't come across, I either come across like way too much via text, or like is not enough because I'm trying to tone myself back and like, exclamation point, here's a sentence with a period to buffer. Here's another sentence with a period to prove I'm normal, more exclamation points. So I'd book coffee chats with people, and I would just say, hi, like, I just want to introduce myself, like, very briefly. Like, I'm new to OffSec. What department do you work in? What do you do? Like, da-da-da. And like, I had to get that live rapport with people so that I would know I was coming across normal in our text interactions.
Yeah. But not everybody can do that because they're introverts.
I cannot. I will not like call you if I don't know you. Like, this is the reason I didn't get into sales. I was like, I'm not cold calling anybody ever. I don't want to be like a bother to people. Like, that's always been one of my biggest fears, is I never want to be a burden on other people, because I know how that feels, right? When you're like, ugh, please just stop talking. And I don't ever want to be that person. But at the same time, like for you, Meryl, you said you like introducing yourself and you like making new connections, and that's fantastic. I love that. For me, like, I love bonding with like my people, like my tribe, like my certain set of folks, right? Like you guys, for example. So when I go out to Black Hat next time, we're going to all do, you know, a bunch of other crazy shit together. So it's fun. But I'm just saying that there are things that you can also bond with just the people you do know. You don't have to be like an amazing extrovert to want to still bond with certain folks in your company. So I do see the merit. I miss that part for sure.
I agree. One of the definite cons to working from home is the blurred boundaries, right? The difficulty in separating work from home life. So like for me personally, it's really nice to like make my lunch. I bring it up here and usually eat it during a meeting where I got my camera off. I go downstairs, I load a few dishes, put a few dishes away, and I come right back upstairs. So it's like a 15-minute thing, you know? And I'm like, it would have taken me 15 minutes to walk to the kitchen at the office, wash my stuff, put it out to dry, and walk back to my desk. But it's hard for people sometimes. Some people like at 5:30, 6, like they're feeling like remember that in person, like first person in, last person out, to prove that you're the most dedicated and like you deserve to be promoted. People can't turn Yeah, people can't turn that off like on remote work. Like they're like, it's 5, like, okay, it's 5:30. I'm gonna go. Anything else? Do you need anything else? I'm still here if you need me. I'm gonna walk away, but I'll come check back in 15 minutes to make sure you didn't need me while I was gone. And like they feel guilty, like not responding to those Slacks immediately, like walking away from their computer to go get food or to get coffee or take a bathroom break. Like, by the way, PSA, stop booking full hour meetings. Book 50-minute meetings. Give people 10 freaking minutes in back-to-back days to go use the bathroom and get something to eat, for the love of God.
Yes, for the love of going to the bathroom and just breathing, please give them 10 minutes. I can't tell you how many times I've had meeting after meeting, and they're all 1-hour meetings, and at least 15 minutes is people just screwing around before or after. And I'm like, I gotta go, man. I have like 4 other meetings.
This meeting could have been an email. This meeting could have been an email.
Oh my gosh. We need that to make that a shirt. This meeting could have been.
That needs to be a shirt. We'll get our new swag person on it. So I think, so I think there's definitely pros and cons to each. So what about return to office? What are your guys' pros and cons for returning to office?
Well, mine is obvious, people and collaboration.
Is that a con or a plus for you?
That's a plus. Oh my God, that's a plus. That's a plus. Even you know what though? I have so many people in my life that are super introverted, and they could use a little bit of light every now and then, you know, like it's good for you. It's not great. It's not healthy for the human psyche to always be isolated. So I do think, yeah, returning to office has its merits. I think that's my big one. Culture is king. And I will always say that forever, but I will still stand by. Please let me keep working from home.
It's king, but in small doses.
Let me go in when I want to go in. How about that?
You're like a cat. You're like, pet me, but only how and when I want.
Yes, Leo life. Okay, we know this.
Yeah.
I would say the pro for micromanager, toxic jerks. The pro is to have everybody in the office so they can keep an eye on them. Got my eyes on you. But that's not a pro for me. But for those toxic people out there, keep going at it. You'll be fired soon. But my pro for going into the office is the exact same thing, is just that collaboration, getting to meet people face to face. Because like Meryl and I, we've been working on this podcast before it launched in September since May of 2022. And it's the first time that we met was at Black Hat in person. So if there was more in-person things, that probably would have been helpful in like an office setting or return to work setting. But I don't see personally any other pros to it other than just the collaboration piece. And then the cons is just traffic, daycare. If you're an hour away and your kid gets sick like me, I'm single, we're all single parents. If I'm an hour away because I'm in Denver, my kid is sick, I'm the only one that can come get her. I don't have anybody else here in Colorado except for my oldest daughter who works too. So yeah, I don't really see any pros to it. There's a ton of cons, the stress, the anxiety of being late, having to get up early.
Hold on though, because this is actually geared towards you, Erica. When I first started working with you as your engineer, I remember I didn't we talked on the phone maybe a couple times, maybe we did a couple calls together, but I learned so much from you from the sales side because of all of the meetings that we did together. So I think that's mentoring.
Meetings are different. Meetings are different.
Mentoring. So like, for example, when I was in a SOC, right, I learned from every analyst around, like God bless whoever decided to actually say yes to hiring me at that point. I was not qualified, but you know what? I sat and
look at us today.
An amazing human being. His name is Terrence. He is always watching this podcast. He's amazing. Shout out to you. I know you love your anonymity or whatever, but I'm just telling you, okay, if it weren't for him and a couple other folks there, I would not have become good at my job, right? Because I wouldn't have had like the job experience and then the camaraderie within the team and then being able to like learn little ideas. You don't do that. Nobody calls each other all day and is like, hey man, so what are you doing right now? Oh, that's cool. Have you seen the email that came out? You know what I mean? Like nobody does this because we're just
going to an office Monday through Friday from 9 to 5 or whatever. Does not hold water. Sure. Going to meetings together and learning, like when you learned from me, we were never forced to be in an office. We were in a partner's office because we worked at ForcePoint at the time. We were at a reseller's office or we were at a customer site. Those are different than return to office. I will argue this all day.
That's I think there's a healthy like hybrid.
I would agree because the main pro that no one mentioned that I was going to say is that training and mentorship piece. So for me, I also was hired completely unqualified. And if I hadn't been able to just sit behind my boss, Heather, and like learn through osmosis and just watch what she was doing and why she was doing it and how she interacted with people and how she referred to certain terms and use certain words and stuff, like it would have taken me a lot longer to pick that up completely remotely if I had started that way. But we were able to Molly. She'd be like, Meryl, and I'm like, what? She's like, look this up. Okay, give me everything you got on it by lunch. Okay,
Yeah.
So like that was nice. It was nice to be able to see people and pick that up from them, and also to go to collaborative meetings. But I found that like people at the senior level were the ones who were the most collaborative and most verbal. When I got to working with other technicians at my level in person, they're all like, anyone got an idea? I'm not going to say it. I'm going to slack it to you. You say it. Like, they don't want to talk out loud anyway. So like they prefer to be in Zooms where like they're talking in the chat. No one's got their camera on, but we're getting a lot done. That's how they like it more. So I don't know. My collaboration didn't take too much of a hit, but I think that training and mentorship piece was really crucial. But on the flip side, I started learning hacking when we all did go remote for the pandemic. So all those in-person things I would have benefited from, like networking and training and meeting certain, hacker celebs and stuff, they all started making remote resources and toolkits and giving virtual trainings for free and doing AMAs. Like I never would have had that access to those people unless I could get care for my kids or bring my kids along, go to a B-Sides, go to a ShmooCon and find them and track them down. So that did help. But I obviously love networking in person. Again, I don't know if you've met, but it's kind of where I shine. So
I prefer to meet my boss at a Starbucks and sit there and learn with him for an hour than go into the office.
Yeah. The big me was check on your extroverted friends. We are not okay.
I'm an extrovert. I'm good. I've been good for over 10 years. Hasn't affected me. But going from in an office your entire life to home, that gave a lot of people a taste of work from home. And unfortunately, the pandemic actually ruined it for a lot of companies. And I'm on the employee side on this one. So it's good that people got a taste of it. But now we're going to probably go into this soon. These companies that are like referring or like forcing you back in, I could see both sides of that too, because the employee was told that they could be called back to the office at any time when they were hired remote or when they went from in office to remote. And I know that it was in some sort of memo or, your offer letter. So you can't really, this is going to be an unpopular opinion. You can't be mad when they tell you to come back to office because you work for them. They pay you to do a job, and to get paid, there are certain requirements. And if that's a requirement and you moved, 2 hours away, that's on you. But I'm gonna rebuttal it. My own
fill your hole back
statement.
in. Fill your hole back in.
But like I read an article about Amazon where they let a lot of people work from home, and they're actually requiring people to move to other states because they've closed down some offices or buildings or whatever. And they're saying you have, a month or 60 days or till the end of the year to move to a completely different state or city. By the way, pack up your kids and go now, or you don't have a job. That stuff is just bogus. Nothing against Amazon. It was an article that I read. I'll link it in the comment or the notes post show. But when you're doing that and closing offices and people live in states where you used to have an office and now you're trying to use return to office and then get them to move and not even, a lot of the times they're not offering assistance.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Amazon was offering assistance, like if you were moving out of state, but how are you going to move your family, after, being there your whole life, let's just say, or the last couple of years, and then expect you to move to a state like New York. And then you're not going to give them a bump in pay because they're going from a state that's cheaper to more expensive. Because that was the other argument that these Amazon employees had was, well, I live in Idaho and they gave me a choice between Seattle and New York, and they're not going to give me a bump in pay. My pay cannot even, doesn't even match the cost of living there. So I could see that side of it too. You know what I mean?
That's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
You said a lot in there.
I'm just saying.
Did the same thing, right? I mean, you know this, Erica. So they worked at CenturyLink forever. And when, all of the acquisitions happened, they were all basically told, hey, you have to move to headquarters in Louisiana. And if not, right. And so that was really nice. They got assistance packages, but then what happens, right? We don't talk about that side. When you get those like moving, what are they called? There's like a specific term for it. Forgive me, but those
relocation assistance
that
package.
one. There we go. There's a smart one of the group. Relocation package. When you leave, there's usually a set term on that, right? So you have to work there within a certain amount of time still. You can't leave without having to pay that back. Can you imagine? So my parents kind of did the same thing, right? Where they wanted to move out there. My mom got an amazing offer to go work at another telecommunications company back in Denver, where she could finally come back and be free in Colorado again. And what happened, right? She was like, well, I either have to stay here for the next like year, or I have to pay back like $100,000. Right. And these are not small relocation packages. That's a big thing to consider too. So, and then think about it for the company. Not only are you moving people and forcing them to be in office, but now you're paying to relocate them and then paying the salary and then sometimes bumping it up to match the cost of living where they are. Like think about those savings too, right? That's all overhead costs as well.
Right.
Yeah. I'll say, when I was with my insurance firm employers, we obviously started in office, went remote, and they were like, we're just going to take this 6 months at a time and do a review and see if it makes sense to go back or not. I actually drive by their building all the time, the old building, and realized that they sold it. So they chose not to go back and to let everyone remain remote. When I got hired onto Zoom, now this was a big one because I was like, this is remote now. Is it going to stay that way? Because the nearest office to me was San Jose. So it technically said remote San Jose location. And I was like, are we ever going to be required to go into the office as part of the red team? Because I would have to move to the Bay Area, which is going to suck. And my boss told me the OffSec department, no, because again, we're testers. We need to be external, That doesn't make a ton of sense. Like, we're not going to go into the office to wave to each other and leave. He was like, but other departments, yes, especially like those who started in the office and went remote. He was like, each department head is taking it up to themselves, but like other departments might be required to go back eventually, but OffSec never will. And I was like, okay. So it wasn't a company-wide policy, but I had to ask for my position. But anywhere while I was applying that I saw like, remote option to go in office or like remote, but we may be opening the office in the next year or whatever. I was like, nope. Unless it's remote and it's going to stay remote. Like, no, thank you.
Ooh,
no, thank you. So I did that vetting ahead of time.
Yeah. Justin's comment, a major reason companies are keeping offices is because they get a tax break from the state and city they are in. Boom. That's another reason. Thank you for bringing that topic up, because it's not just, always that they want to control you. They benefit from certain things as well. And, companies are greedy, so they have to get as much profit as they can. And you can't blame them, right? But that's another argument on their side. But they're not going to be like, yes, we have to get, you back in office because we tax breaks.
I wonder if they get the same tax breaks, though, from putting that money into things like offsites. Like Acquia, we are a Slack first all remote company. But we do semi-annual. Biannual is every other year. Semi-annual is half the year. We do semi-annual offsites where we all get together and see each other in person and hang out for a few days and do fun activities. And to them, it's way more worth it to put that money they would put into a building into like fun trips where we all get to bond and stuff like that.
Justin also said, and that savings is not pushed to the employees that they moved. Yeah, I love your points, Justin. Those are great points. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. So let's talk about, we're going to keep this episode relatively short. And I love that we've been keeping them shorter. Good for us. We put some discipline on ourselves. But what do you guys think about the hybrid model? Like
favorite?
Give
the power back to the people. And I know I'm pissing off, Elon Musk and all of his tribe, but I'm just saying.
Good.
Right? Like, I'm just saying, I know, right? I look over at my poster. But there are things where I'm like, I don't love that. Because I think if this is how I wanted to start this whole thing, right? This episode today was why, right? Like, why do people like working from home? And it's not just like, oh, well, I can spend more time with my kids. It's like, sure, but why, right? And it's like the personality types. For example, like, why do bosses want you in the office? What is different? Because they can see what you're doing. They can verify that you're working.
Micromanagement.
Right? Like the Elon Musk thing is, well, people are always more productive. That's proven. It's like, well, no shit, because they're under the gun, right? They're literally being watched as they work. So there's the difference there. It's kind of like Big Brother almost, right? Versus
fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I'm afraid for my job. So but honestly, if I had nothing to do, like I asked my boss, if I have no work to do, can I read my Sec Plus book? I had a Sec Plus. Can I read my book at the office? Is that okay? He's like, is that a book that'll make you better at your job? Yeah. Then yes.
Well, there you go. The bosses I've
But I'm
always
like,
worked for are like, there's always 900 things to do, right? And it's like, well, no shit. Well, do you want me to burn out quickly? Because I can ride this out if you give me some, 15-minute breaks every now and then, right? So I'm just saying,
delay the curve, but the burnout curve.
right,
with
right,
breaks.
exactly.
No, I agree. I think that it depends on the personality type. Like I love networking in person, and I will seize that grind. When we're at Black Hat, when we're at RSA, I am up at 5, at the con by 7, talking to all the people, having all the conversations, going to all the after parties, asleep by midnight, and doing it all again for like 5 straight days. But I love working from home, and when I get home, I just want to make no words out loud sometimes.
That's the best way to put that. Most accurate thing you said. Oh, call. Here we go.
I like hybrid. I mean, hybrid, if I had to choose between the three, I mean, hybrid I think would be great as long as it's like either you have the choice to come in and it's like one day a week you have to be in, or like one day every other week, or 2 days in the office, 3 off if you live close. But I think that companies need to trust their employees more. And, we've obviously given them reasons not to trust us, right? Because people do stupid things. So, as the
get 2 to 3 jobs and pretend to work all 3 of them and work none of them.
Right.
Those are not your experienced professionals, though.
Yeah, but for the most part, people like, they want to work. They appreciate that they have a job. So hybrid isn't such a bad option. But when I was doing research on this topic, I saw that the Atlassian CEO said that, they're going to keep their remote workers, but they're going to keep their offices as well. And he wants everybody to go in once a quarter, because he goes in once a quarter. So like every couple of months, I guess they have to get together, and I'll link this in the notes as well. And he wants them to be in the office. And I don't even know if it's like the same day, but what if they did it once a month, or once every other month, or once a quarter?
QBRs.
Like QBRs. Those are a great time, but not everybody gets to go to QBRs because it's an expensive thing to pay for the travel, the hotels. So that's why they do it in the office, because they do save money on travel.
I love hybrid options for people who need that collaboration or need that mentoring and training or whatever, but I just don't want it to be mandatory, because some people don't prefer it and don't need it. And I'm at the senior level. Like I can collaborate with my engineers very well, because we all work pretty autonomously. We're all that kind of personality again. But being forced to be in the office for me, like, I'm just like, what value am I getting out of having this conversation live? And I get that dose at conferences, and you can ask anyone at my company besides my boss, the one who wrote 2 books, and has like, I only have the second largest following in the company, which shame. But, he's like the number 1 travel guy, obviously, because he's massive. But I'm second. And I'm like, I've been to like 8 conferences this year. I love conferences. But that's because I'm fully remote the rest of the time. So I'm like, I can rally. I can put my energy into it. I get to talk to all my people. And then I want to go back home. But I don't want it to be required. If they were ever like, you better go to 5 conferences a year, I'd be like, ew, no, I don't want to go.
Yeah.
Well, I just thought of our episode last week. What about people that cannot get to the office because it's not accessible? ADA. What about that? What if it's better for people? You're excluding that entire group of people, because what if they can't get to the office? What if it's hard for somebody to get into an office? Like our guest last week who was blind. Like the argument can be made for all sides, but you're actually excluding certain groups. Not to mention people that can't afford to travel.
Building up to code and stuff. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. No, but like people that also can't afford it or have to take public transportation. You know what I mean?
That's a huge one.
I just think you can't force certain people to be in the office without making accommodations for them. So your visually and auditorily impaired people, your single parents, if you're going to force a single parent with no village and no support system to work in a remote state without their people and be in the office, you better offer on-site daycare.
Yep.
If you want them to be productive, take a stress off their plate. Yeah. Take a stress off their plate, empower them to do their job. Don't just say, do a good job, do it for this much money, and you figure out how to get here. Like that. Yeah. That's not helping anybody.
I agree with the on-site daycare. My youngest daughter's in her first year of college as a senior in high school. So she goes to one of the state colleges, and they have a daycare. for free for the students because they know that there are young parents. I didn't have that option when I was younger and I had kids and wanted to go away to college, but a lot of them have made accommodations. So there is a lot of good to it, but it's the negative Nellies, and not to call out Salesforce because they're a great company, but their CEO has been under fire for a long time about this return to office stuff and some other things, because he was saying in an article that employees that were hired remote, like after the pandemic or during the pandemic, are not productive. That's a big accusation. You know what I mean?
There are a lot of studies opposing that statement.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree, but I'm bringing it up because Salesforce has been in the news a lot about the return to office debate and whatnot, and he said some very accusatory things without any data behind it. And there's a lot of companies that are saying these things, but they don't have the data to support it. Mm-hmm. So what's your argument?
Yeah. Atlassian has some of the best data out there on the whole work from home / return to work thing. And it's been proven that like well-distributed work makes for happier, more productive teams. So, just kind of take that grain of knowledge with you. For me, my big opposition in this whole debate is the people who want people back in the office, but are threatening to punish them if they don't comply. Like you made certain allowances, you told them they can move to another state where it was cheaper to live closer to family during the pandemic. Now you're saying, just kidding, move your butts back. Or you will not be promoted. We will start docking your pay. You will be held back from opportunities. You will not be included in certain initiatives. And I think that is absolutely, that is like, who wants to go work in an office with someone who just threatened them like that? Like, dude, you're your own problem.
Yeah. Bye, Felicia. I'm getting another job.
But think about it this way, right? Because I was actually thinking about this when I was reading about the whole SpaceX stuff. And hey, you don't be, he's basically saying, Elon Musk was like, well, you basically don't have a job. If you're going to work here or X or whatever they're calling it now, expect to be in the office every day or you don't have a job, right? So think about that though. Like even when all three of us are doing like interviews and stuff, we have like certain preliminary things that we do. And if people don't meet that, then they're almost weeding themselves out, right? So then you create like a cult, not a culture, a cult of people who think exactly like the direct leader, right? Like the CEO. So how better off to do your product and your company in the way that you want if you're hiring people that have the same mindsets and values as you, right? So I guess like it can work both ways. It's just not I've never been a proponent of leading through fear. I don't think that that's good. I think when you force people into a corner, you're not getting the best. You're getting like this timid kind of like, well, if I don't do it, or you're getting like the screw this, I'm just going to go in and make your life a living hell now. You're not getting people that choose to be there.
I think if you as an executive don't want to be marketed to through fear, uncertainty, and doubt, because that turns you off immediately, don't market to your people through fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Like, right? Be a leader, not an executioner.
Everyone that knows me knows that leading me in fear has the direct opposite. I do.
Reverse psychology with Erica. Erica, don't be in at 9. I will be in at 9. See you.
Be there.
Okay, well, we are at 37 minutes, so we're going to move on into final takeaways, try and keep this relatively short. So ladies, final takeaways: work from home, return to office, mandatory, hybrid, optional. Final takeaways for the audience. Go.
That's my takeaway. I am a firm proponent of hybrid and letting your people choose. That's my takeaway.
My final takeaway is I like work from home, but there are supposedly certain positions that have to be in the office. So I'm kind of split on it. For me as a person, work from home. But my advice and final takeaway is actually, if you are, a work from home, or you don't want to be in an office setting and you're looking for a job, make sure that you're only looking for remote work, because at any time you work for an employer, they can change things and it's in your offer letters. So that's the only advice I'm going to give you, is just be careful out there.
Yeah, mine is going to be, orgs, when you're evaluating people for culture fit and people when you're evaluating an org, make sure you ask about that. Like, is it remote now, but that could change later? And is my position always going to be remote? And, if you need to be in an office, consider that. But if you're someone who is okay accepting a completely remote culture like mine, then, because like opposite, people who want the option to go back to the office with my company won't have that option. We'll never have an office. So, you got to make sure that culture aligns with what you can sustain and what you can do. Set boundaries at home. If you need to work in an office and shut the house out, do that. If you need to shut work out in the office and pay attention to your home, do that. It's a delicate balance, but ultimately, we all adults, if we all just get our jobs done and keep everybody happy, then we'll get to keep working the way that we like. So take that grain of salt with you. Working from home is not guaranteed in any tech or cyber company, even though it's a nice luxury. So don't ruin it for the rest of us who desperately need it.
I agree.
Anyway, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Cyber Queens. We so appreciated having all of you here and in the comments, engaging with us. There were paragraphs in the comments today. They were good. Yeah. We love spending our Friday with you. If you like the content, please like, share, and subscribe. It's absolutely free and the best way you can support us. I can't speak today. I say this every week. We the Queens will see you next week. Next week, we're going to have hopefully we're going to have a special guest on. I haven't lined her up yet, so I'm not going to commit to her yet, but we hope to have a very, very special guest with a very unique story on for you next week. So be sure not to miss that. Otherwise, we will see you next Friday. Have a great weekend. Bye.